Cars. Huh. What are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Cars. Huh. What are they good for? Absolutely nothing. Okay, well, they're good for a lot of things, but cars are also a source of frustration for many people. They cost a lot of money. They cost a lot of money to maintain. They're a hassle. So, how many of you really love having a car? Maybe some of you hate having a car. Do you become anxious when you think about going without a car at some point in your life? Are you a person that just loves cars? There are people like that. I was really never one of those people. I always liked cars for their convenience and what they did for me, not because I loved the cars themselves. Cars are a complex issue and they're intertwined in our lives, especially if you live in the United States like I do, where it's really difficult to do without a car unless you live in what we consider some of the walking cities like New York or Chicago or San Francisco or maybe Philadelphia. It's really, really difficult to do without a car. I happen to live in a smaller town which has amazingly a good little bus system. And so actually I lived here for 3.5 years without a car, just fine, actually. So you can live in smaller places without a car. But I'm going to talk to you today about the fact that I'm kind of torn on this issue myself, and maybe you are as well. So there's things that I don't like about having a car, and of course, there's things I don't like about not having a car. So it's a really tough call for me. I mean, if I had, unlimited amount of money and could have, live anywhere I wanted, have a car that was totally reliable, of course I'd have a car. But cars cost a lot of money, and that's probably, I think, the biggest issue why it aggravates people, especially people who are on a limited income. So as you know, if you've listened to my last video, I am torn on this issue because after going 3.5 years without a car, I bought a used car a year ago, just about a year ago. And it felt like it just was a source of frustration and stress for me for many months. It had some problems that had to be fixed. It cost me extra money. It's still got some things that I should put money into. I mean, they don't affect it. It's nothing that affects the driving of it. It's been pretty reliable, knock on wood. But there's things that I could always be spending money on in the car, which I'm sure those of you who have a used car, you know what I'm talking about. So I was going to kind of lay out today because it helps me kind of think about this issue for myself right now, because I'm debating whether or not to keep the car, maybe sell the car and go without a car for another year or so, at least in my life. So I was going to talk today about the pros and the cons of not having a car. In other words, I'm not talking about pros and cons of having a car, but actually, what are the pros and cons of not having a car? So I'm going to start with the cons first. So the cons are you basically like a car for the convenience of it. You can get to the store, you can get to doctor's appointments, you can go see friends. It's convenient. If you find you're out of something and you need to run to the store for it, you got a car right there to do it. Or if you have an emergency, you need to go help someone out, you can get in your car, go over there and do that. It's also very much tied to a sense of independence and freedom. So not having a car, you lose that. And I think that's a big one for a lot of people. I know it was my mom. My mom really had a tremendous sense of independence from being able to drive. The problem was as she got older, she was not real safe to drive. And so eventually my older sister took the car away from her when she was about, I think, close to 80 years old. But people really much tie having a car to having freedom. And that is true. So not having one really limits that. Also, you can't really travel like you want to. I mean, I, for one, love road trips. I like to drive. It's very relaxing for me, especially out on back roads and things like that. And so not having a car, you can't really travel easily. Of course, that all depends on also the fact that you have a reliable car that would be good on road trips, which if you have an older car like I do, the sense of reliability of the car kind of goes down the tubes. So, and then a lot of times cars are tied to a sense of identity for people. So, especially if you love cars and you like fancy cars, you like really, classic cars, then it's really tied to your sense of identity. So, not having a car makes you feel like you've really lost a part of yourself. So, those are some big cons about not having a car. But let's talk about some pros of not having a car. And the main one is saving money. The main one is cars are so expensive that not having one saves you a lot of money. You don't pay for gas, you don't pay for insurance, you don't have to pay for repairs, which to me is the most aggravating cost. I actually, for a number of years in the 2000s, early 2000s, I actually only had new cars for about like 3 years, and then I'd get another new car just to not have repair bills. I would rather have paid a car payment at that time because I was working than have to pay unexpected repair bills. At least I knew what the car payment was. It wasn't a surprise. It was a, set amount every month. So having unexpected repairs to me is the most aggravating thing. And so to me, that's a big pro about not having a car. You don't have to think about things like that. And also just maintenance of the car, getting oil changes, things like that. The other thing I think is it promotes you to get more exercise when you don't have a car. I know it did for me for 3.5 years. I had to walk a lot of places. That meant I got a lot of exercise. Now, I still walk a lot now, even though I have a car, but I think you are kind of forced to go out and get exercise, which can be a good thing. Of course, if you're a person that can't exercise or you have some sort of limitation or disability, of course, that's not really a valid point for you. The other thing is it forces you to plan better. I think that's one of the first things I noticed about not having a car was that I had to actually plan things better. I had to know what I was going to do. I had to, if I was going to go to the store, I had to think about exactly what I needed to get, whether I'd be able to carry that back on the bus, whether I needed to bring a cart on the bus. But I also had to plan that out during the week. Like, how many days a week do I want to walk and go somewhere and take care of something or take the bus or whatever. So I was actually forced to really plan better. The other pro about not having a car is it's less stress. It's less hassle. You just have one less major thing in your life to worry about, which I found really good for like the first, for the 3.5 years. It was surprisingly how well I adapted to not having a car. So the stress factor. And then the other thing is if you need to take a trip, when you don't have a car, you've saved all that money by not owning a car. So a couple of times a year, go rent a car to take a 2 or 3 day trip. You can afford it. You can likely afford it. And then you've got a car that you don't have to worry about. If it breaks down, the car rental place is going to have to give you a new car, a different car. So I find that a big reason, that kind of takes away that problem of not being able to travel as much or whatever. So those are the issues that I'm facing right now in deciding whether to keep this car or sell the car, maybe go another period of time without a car. I haven't made a decision yet, but I thought I'd talk about this today because I know a lot of you maybe are torn. You're thinking, should I keep my car? It's a lot of problems. It keeps breaking down on me. I can't keep pouring money into it. And so it might be something that you want to think about as well. The one thing I do know is that in the United States in particular, we have been very car obsessed for the last century. And like I said, we haven't even designed most of our cities to be navigable without a car. So it's a real problem. I used to live in the Phoenix area, and you cannot live in the Phoenix area if you don't have a car. There is a bus system, but it is really cumbersome to have to, if you do anything but take a one bus to somewhere, it takes you hours. So it's really not practical to go without a car there, and I would suspect that most cities are the same. My wish for myself as I'm getting older is I realize I can't drive forever anyway. I'm hoping I can still drive for maybe the next 10 years or so. But frankly, one of my goals is to eventually live overseas, live in a place I don't need a car. A lot of places in Europe, for instance, you absolutely don't need a car. They have great public transport, train systems, bus systems. And that actually would be a relief to me. It would be a relief to me to not actually have to deal with a car as I get older. So it's something for you to think about. I don't know what you want to do in your lives, but yeah, cars, what are they good for? Yeah, probably something. Anyway, until next time, be well, keep moving forward, think about your transportation needs. Take care. Bye.